How much slower are you in winter compared to summer? And how can you be less slow in winter? Well, there are a number of factors that affect this, and we're going to demonstrate the difference between the seasons in this video and also give you some tips on how you can be faster by optimizing your setup in winter. It's time for summer Alex versus winter Alex. He's down there.
So, first thing to do, jump out on the bike, put this to the test. Winter me versus summer me. Now, data from mywindsock.com says that on average, riders are around 3.5 kilometers an hour slower in winter compared to summer. And my Strava data tells me that my commutes from home to GCN Megabase are around 2 kilometers an hour slower during winter. Part of this is attributed to the increase in aerodynamic drag. 85% of that coming from your body, 15% of that coming from your bike. Now, in winter times, our bike setups are typically quite different to the summer. We use slower winter tyres. We might have mud guards on our bikes, and we're also going to be carrying more spares. Now, I headed out in the summer to do this route with what is quite possibly the fastest bike setup that I have available to me. So, Speedy Boy tyres, carbon fibre wheels, fast summer clothing, and I rode as fast as possible. Right, let's get prepped, head down, recreate it.
It's absolutely freezing today. But while Alex is out on the course doing his thing, I've been doing some nerdy analysis on my windsock. Now, from that, I can see that when he did this loop back in summer, he averaged 290 watts. Respectable, and over 38 kilometers an hour, so he's going pretty quick. And the weather was pretty good too. So I can see that there was a weather impact of 3%, which cost him 13 seconds down to extra wind on that day. But that's actually pretty good. And his drag coefficient was decent too. So for those of you who speak nerd, it was 0.29. Don't worry too much about that. I'll explain it more when we see what he does in his winter setup. Here he comes.
You all right? Oh, hello.
How was that? Faster or slower?
I think we know the answer. It was slower, but we'll run through.
Right.
Calculate it all out, shall we?
We'll calculate, yeah.
You do the maths, you're better at maths.
Right, okay.
Give us 5 minutes.
Right, got your results. 32.6 kilometers an hour average from 38. That's way slower.
It's way
so
slower.
you're looking at 10 minutes slower.
That's significant.
Loads. And you were actually 5 watts more powerful in winter mode. But I can take that into consideration within the calculations and things. So looking at your CDA, your drag coefficient, we're going nerdy, it was 0.29 in summer, which is decent for on a road bike.
Yeah.
You can get lower on a road bike, but you're quite a big guy.
So summer me is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
But you're 0.48 in winter, which is like, that's rubbish.
Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of stuff, the mud guards, your jacket, that's all playing a role. You know, things like this around your neck, the big gloves present to the wind as well. All of that makes a significant detrimental impact to your drag coefficient. And also the weather, we can look at that versus the day in summer. So the weather played a bigger part today. So you're looking at a 10% weather impact, which in terms of weather, we said it was 10 minutes slower. One of those minutes was down to weather.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a
lot.
Yes, compared to just 13 seconds when you did it in summer. So there you go.
Well, so we found out that winter me, or winter riding in general, is slower. Big surprise. But what has surprised me is it's such a significant amount. So what we now need to do is to discuss how we can try and change things on our bikes and our setups to overcome the aspects that are slowing us down.
Let's start with clothing and your kit. So there are a few things you can do to make yourself less slow, but one of them isn't wearing less clothing because, I mean, it's freezing today. You need to wear some layers to keep warm. But always try and go for things that are a bit more fitted if you're wanting to be less slow, because they're considerably more aerodynamic. One thing in particular to avoid is big, heavy, hard shell rain jackets. Now, obviously, if it's raining, you'll want to wear that to keep yourself drier. But people often buy them and then wear them as kind of like a winter jacket when they're riding. These are very, very, very slow. We've measured them in the wind tunnel and they can be as bad as 60 watts penalty, especially if you unzip it and it's flapping in the wind. They really do behave like parachutes. That said, the best tip I can give you is wear something that's tighter and more fitted, and if you've got a rain cape or hard shell jacket, only wear it when it's raining. Something else that's actually, well, unintentionally better in winter is often an aero helmet, because they have less vents, they hold in more heat, they keep you warmer. In summer, you might be too hot in an aero helmet and you want the extra vents, but in winter, it can keep you warmer and make you a bit less slow.
Next, let's talk about bike setup. Now, anyone taking winter riding seriously, in my opinion, is really going to need to use mudguards. However, mudguards are going to slow you down in two different ways. One, aerodynamically, and the second being by adding additional weight onto your bike. Now, the mudguards fitted to my bike are adding around 400 to 500 grams of additional weight. But by the mudguards keeping you drier, it could save your kit from being heavier, which means you could save around 200 grams, which means overall, perhaps adding mudguards to your bike is only going to mean it's 200 grams or so heavier, which, let's face it, isn't really actually going to make much difference in terms of speed. Now, having mentioned that mudguards are slower aerodynamically, there has been a study conducted by the SAE Mobilis Engineering Journal titled Effect of Fender Angle Coverage on Cycling Aerodynamics, or something like that, which basically has showed that carefully designed mudguards or fenders could actually make your bike faster, potentially by up to around 4%. But let's face it, standard mudguards like this are not going to have that effect. There's also other things that are set up on your bike which are going to slow you down. Things like carrying additional spares and equipment with you in winter. Now, a big chunky boy handlebar bag like this is great for storing all your snacks and spares in. But there are far more effective ways of carrying that stuff. Now, we've shown in the past through wind tunnel studies that having a large saddlebag at the back of your bike could actually have a good impact on the aerodynamic of your bike and could even speed you up. So by carefully choosing where you're going to carry your spares, well, instead of slowing you down, well, it could speed you up.
Tyres are a big point of interest to me. Yes, I'm great fun at parties. And that's because they have a huge impact on your performance. So summer tyres typically exhibit far lower rolling resistance and therefore are considerably faster. But there's a trade-off. And the trade-off comes in two ways. Firstly, the compound used is designed to operate at warmer temperatures and offer that better performance and grip at those warmer summer temperatures. And also the puncture protection is typically less, because in winter, there's a far greater risk of punctures. That's because you get just all sorts of detritus and crap strewn in the road, and the roads are often wet, which can help things penetrate your tyre more easily. The water tends to sort of act as a lubricant. You get more punctures in winter. So to put that into context, if we compare Pirelli's race tyre to their four-season tyre, that is more of a winter tyre. It's got a winter compound on it and greater puncture protection, but it's a performance winter tyre. You're looking at 16% more rolling resistance. If we then go to the full-on winter tyre like the Cinturato that Alex has got on his bike at the moment, you're looking at 38% more rolling resistance. These things are considerably slower. If you did want to go faster in winter and you live somewhere where it's cold but drier, then yes, you probably still could opt for a summer tyre and be okay.
Now, those winter tyre compounds that Ollie's talking about are really important because, well, it doesn't matter how fast you are in a straight line, because if you get to your first corner and crash, well, it's not exactly going to be great, is it? And also, winter tyres will typically have greater levels of puncture protection because, again, if you're stopped at the side of the road in the freezing cold fixing a puncture, well, you're not making much progress, are you? Now, typically, in my experience, I have found that an all-seasons conditions tyre kind of works best for me and feels like it offers the best of both worlds. So in reality, Yes, winter tyres are slower than their summer equivalents, but when you take all those different things into account, the difference is perhaps not as bad as you first thought.
The atmospheric conditions also play a part, but don't fall asleep. Hear me out, it's pretty interesting. So in winter, there's typically more wind than there is in summer, which slows you down. But in addition to that, the temperatures are lower, which means the air is more dense. More dense air is thicker and therefore slower. This typically, well, it varies, but it typically means that on average, you're around 0.5 of a kilometre an hour slower than you are in summer for the same weather conditions. But this is then further compounded by the less aerodynamic clothing and equipment that we've mentioned earlier. We can also attribute slower speeds to poor road conditions. In winter, you often get loads of dirt and detritus and sludge on the roads. They're often wetter, and the rain washes gravel and other things on the roads, making them much slippier. And as a result of that, you often go slower so that you don't slide off, particularly in corners. I mean, this is like icy sludge that's on here right now. There's ice on the sides of the roads. It really is quite treacherous. So a way you can mitigate this is to choose roads that aren't the back lanes, that are more likely to have been treated, and also they're just less twisty and less dirty. So that's one way. But another thing you can do, and this is one of my favourite things, is to make use of the stronger winds by choosing a route that has a prevailing tailwind and then get the train home. And finally, the last thing that can't be ignored is the difference in fitness between winter and summer. Now, I find it very hard, and most humans do, to be in top shape all year round. You typically want to be in, your better shape for the nice event that you're training for that's probably in the spring or the summer. And so in winter, it's normal to just relax a little bit and lose a bit of fitness, although not in the case of Alex, who was 5 watts faster in his winter self on his training loop than he was in the summer. He's doing it wrong. But by optimising your wind setup and saving a few watts here and there, even if it's, on your chain or your tyres or whatever, it can allow you to close that deficit between your summer fitness and potentially ride with people and keep up with them who are a bit faster and fitter than you are, or just allow you to get to the cafe a few minutes quicker, which, well, when it's like today, it can't come any sooner. There you have it. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. I guess the biggest thing is you're going to be slower in winter. From my side, I actually don't mind a huge deal, and I just accept the fact that I'm going to be quicker in summer. And it's that nice feeling. It's like emerging from a cocoon, like a butterfly, ready to just be, get your fast kit on. And you feel great.
I can get on board with that. What is important though is I want to hear what everyone at home has to say about this. So let us know your thoughts on your summer versus winter riding speeds in the comments section down below. And of course, to see more bike tech related videos by us two jokers, subscribe to GCNTech and turn on your notifications. Right, should we go warm up now?
Calf.
Yeah, much nicer riding in the summer.